I'm going to talk to you today about brand identity and the importance of values. So my name is Lou Williams. I work for Grant Thornton. I'm in charge of developing the G membership program, and also we're introducing and launching today the 12-month retail growth program. So I was going to start this presentation with a video which demonstrated the importance of having values. So we can watch the video, and I think that might be worth doing.
Running a business is not just about making money. As far as I'm concerned, running a business is about corporate social responsibility. I had a very bad head-on car crash 24 years ago. I spent a few weeks at Thomas's Hospital next to a young mum. She was buying clothes for her 2 children. I realised that mail order catalogues for children were pretty dull. So that sparked the idea to bring Breton-style fashion, add a sort of dose of quirky British humour into the design, and Jojo Maman Bébé was launched, in effect, from my hospital bed. We have grown to being the UK's leading independent mother and baby brand. I don't run this business to make myself rich or to feed my ego. I do it because I have a sense of responsibility. We abide by our mantra, which is people and the planet above profit. The most useful thing an individual can do in life is to provide ethical employment. It's really important for me that people don't miss out on real life, which is your home life. A business has to have a heart, it has to have a soul, and the people in that business, they're real people. They're the ones who are going to make it succeed. And if you treat your people like numbers, then actually they behave like numbers. Corporate social responsibility is very close to my heart. We wanted to look at what happened to the clothes after our customers outgrew them, and quite often they'd end up put out for the rubbish men. We thought, let's see if we can do something proactive with this. We're now on our 2nd year of running our From a Mother to Another initiative, which in effect is the gift of love from a parent to another. Last year, 50,000 pieces of clothing and 22,000 pairs of shoes were given to parents in need in the UK and to Syrian refugees. You've got to have something more to instill trust in your customer. So I do think corporate social responsibility, which is believable and not just a PR tick box, is essential. Women tend to nurture their companies. We grow them for longevity. We're proud of what we do. The big marketing gurus are going to start saying, listen to these women who run their companies with a heart, because these are the people who are taking their businesses into the next generation. The challenge is going to be to retain this ethos as we grow into a global brand. But that's the most important thing on my agenda.
What is a brand, and what's the difference between a brand and a brand name? Well, a brand name is exactly what it says. It's the name of your business, it's the name of your shop, it's the name of your retail outlet. But a brand is so much more than that. A brand is about the feelings that your business name conjures up in the minds of your customers. So it's really important. It's much, much more than just the logo and colors. It's much more about what your customers think about you when they hear your brand name. So, everybody knows that brand? Yes, everybody loves that brand. Well, I do. It stands for quite a lot of things, and it conjures up a feeling in your mind as you see that logo. It says to me, it's simple, it's clear, it's simple design, it's very elegant. And actually that comes through in everything that Apple does, not just in the brand, it's in their retail outlet, the way their stores look, the people they employ in the stores, the way those people in the stores behave. It's apparent in their their designs of their products, all of their products. And also, have you ever bought an Apple brand? The packaging is to die for. I absolutely love it. But it says an awful lot about what that brand stands for. Apple have spent a lot of time and money making sure that their values are imbued throughout their business. And those, I'm not going to read them all out. Those are some of their values. Those are their core values that they instill in everybody who works for Apple. So I can hear you almost saying, I have dealt with a lot of small businesses in the past. I can hear you almost saying, I don't need a brand. It's not for me. I'm a small business. Branding's only for big businesses. Well, let me tell you, that's completely untrue. And these are some of the common beliefs that are held by small businesses, small retailers, is I don't need a fancy logo. Well, we've already established that it's not about logo. It's not about the fancy logo. I'm not big enough to worry about having a brand. Yes, you are, and I'm going to give you some examples of why it's so important to start thinking about those values right now. I don't have any money to do any branding. It isn't always about money. It's about understanding what it is that connects you to your customer. It's about your values. What do you want your customers to feel about you? I've already got a logo in stationery where we've been through that one, and my customers know about me, all about me and my business. Yes, they probably do, but what about the ones that aren't your customers? Those are the ones you want to encourage to come into your store or your business. So let me just tell you a little story. Montezuma chocolate. Anybody heard of Montezuma chocolate? Few of you nodding. Okay. It is a chocolate brand. It's now well known. I think you can find it in Waitrose and Sainsbury's even. So it started off as two young lawyers who graduated from law school, decided that after all of that, they got married and they didn't want to do law. So they went around the world to try and find an idea and found themselves in a cocoa plantation. Decided they love chocolate. Let's do chocolate. So they came back and created Montezuma. But right at the very beginning, they said, we're going to have a fair trade policy. And we're going to only source cocoa that's been ethically produced. So they don't buy their cocoa mass from Africa. They buy it from South America, because in South America, they rotate. They use a crop rotation process. So they let the land regenerate whilst they use a different field for growing other cocoa. So they've become incredibly well known, and it's incredibly good chocolate. But all the time they have set those values, and they carry on those values all the way through their growing their business. So what is it that makes a brand? It's passion. You have to be passionate about your business. Otherwise, don't be in business. In fact, if you see on the site here, it says Inside Retailer. First of all, I'd recommend that you go online and have a look at that resource. It is a fabulous resource. It's completely free. But in one of the videos on there, there is Roger Saul, who launched Mulberry. Everybody's heard of Mulberry. And he says, if you're not passionate about your business, you shouldn't be in business. So it's really important to have passion for your business, because it comes through. Your customers can see it. A brand will help you become unique. It'll help you differentiate yourself from your competition. So it's important from that particular point of view. Having a story. People love stories. Everybody loves to hear, why did you create this business? Why is this brand so successful? And I'm going to give you some more examples as we go through. It gives you the opportunity to connect with your customers. You need to get this, I keep talking about connection, but it's an emotional connection. It's a feeling. And that will create loyal customers, the stronger that feeling is. And it gives you the opportunity to create a personality. So branding is important because it's important for these guys. These guys started, two young guys in a field, at a festival, decided they wanted to make smoothies. And so they made a whole batch of smoothies and asked people, should we give up our jobs or not? And everybody unresoundingly said, yes, give up your job and start this business. But Innocent was based around using no additives, but good quality raw materials. And that, again, a set of values that encompasses the business as it grows. So branding is important because it's how it demonstrates how you run your business. It's how you work. It's how you look to your customers and how you relate to them. So it's really, really important to have a think about those values as you're creating that brand. But most importantly, those values create an emotional connection with your customers. But it allows you to also create a difference and add value. Right, here's an example, a real live example. So these are 4 cars, models A to D. The prices are roughly the same. Believe me, if you can't read it, don't worry. The engine sizes are about the same, the power, and all the characteristics are about the same. Now, okay, so how do you choose? Which one would you buy? How do you make a decision? Because they're almost identical. But if I'm to do this, immediately that conjures up a feeling in your mind. So for me, it's always about the BMW for me. But for others, it might be, and these badges will conjure up a feeling. So it's not just about the attributes of the products that you sell, it's about the feelings that you conjure up. Why do we need brand values? I'm going to give you another example of why values are so important, about this connection with your customer. So we've got 3 brands there, Coca-Cola, NFL, and Virgin. And these are some of the things that these brands say about themselves. So NFL says to be the premier sports and entertainment brand that brings people together, connecting them socially and emotionally like no other. It doesn't mention football stadiums in there at all. It talks about what you feel about the NFL when you go there. Coca-Cola, to inspire moments of optimism and uplift. Doesn't talk about the Coca-Cola, the taste at all. And then you've got Virgin. In that sentence, it doesn't say anything about having seats on an aeroplane. So it's really important. Or these big brands have started just where you're starting now. But they set a set of values, and they stay by those values. So, brand values are about words and quality that describe your brand. They usually have an emotional element to them. That element is often not measurable, so it's intangible. But it's about that feeling that is conjured up by the brand, by the values. What it will do is provide reassurance and credibility for your brand. And it makes the brand attractive to your target market. So the most important thing I want you to think about is your target market. Do you all know who your customers are? What they do? How many different types of customer do you have? Have you ever stood in the shoes of your customer and done the buying process from the start of the journey to the end of the journey? It's so important. It's a simple thing to do. But because you're so passionate about your brand, sometimes you don't think about doing that. So it's really important to really get a grip of your customers. So the first rule of good branding is to understand your audience. So it's about what is it that attracts them to you, your product, your service, your store, your retail outlet. How do they shop? Do you understand what their shopping habits are? I've just seen a couple of people who've come to talk to me in the expert, Meet the Expert, and I've given them some simple marketing strategies about how you can understand and segment your target market. That sounds like marketing speak, but it's really getting to grips with your customer, really understanding who your customer is, what they do, how they shop, and how they buy. Do they buy from a store physically, or do they buy online, or do they do both? Do they buy on recommendations or referrals? So really important to understand your customer inside out. And if you get all of that right, then it's much easier to brand your retail business. And I've put up here Richer Sounds. Anybody heard of them? Yes? Yeah, okay. Richer Sounds started by Julian Richer. He was only 19 years old when he started that store. And his premise was he wanted to break down the barriers between people walking into a store, which is quite scary, especially when it was about photography. He started off with photographic equipment to start with. And he wanted to break the barrier down between the pavement and his store. So what did he do? He decided he didn't want a shop front. He has sliding doors that completely open the shop, and so people can just drift into the shop from the pavement. So there was no physical barrier. So his set of values was creating an experience that made it easy for the customer to buy from him. He also makes sure that every single person in his store is really knowledgeable about the products. So you can go into any Richer store, and any of the assistants in there will be able to give you a really unbiased opinion about the equipment in there and help you. I wonder how many of you remember this video. Volvo based its whole premise around safety. If you said 20, 30 years ago that you wanted a safe car, then Volvo was the brand that came to mind immediately. It's still safe, but all of the other manufacturers caught up really quickly, and they became, the way they built their cars was just as safe as Volvo. The next ad is a little bit long. It's quite fun. It's funky. It might appeal to some of you or not. And then if you guess what the brand is, shout it out. So how do you make your brand values work? You make sure everybody in your business knows what they are. Really important to do that right at the beginning of when you start your business. And keep hold of them, keep reviewing them, because they're never static. If one of your values is, I want to put a face on a face of the business that's friendly, approachable, really nice to do business with. What you don't want is one of those at your reception. Somebody who's grumpy and miserable, because that's the first point of contact your customer will see of your brand. Let me tell you a short story. I don't know how much time I've got. I'm okay at the moment. Right, Petronas. Anybody heard of Petronas? Big oil and gas company in Kuala Lumpur. Twin Towers, fabulous building. I was very lucky to be working on a project for them. And the first thing you do when you walk into their grand reception at the bottom of the Twin Towers, huge, fabulous entrance. There isn't a single seat. You can't sit down anywhere. There's a queue of people, but you can't sit down, so it's very unfriendly. And the first thing the receptionist does is to take your passport. So a really bad image of people coming into that business. So it's really, really important to make sure that you communicate to everybody in your business. Now, if you're in the business, an online business where your products are going to be delivered by a distribution service, you really need to check that out, because the worst thing in the world is for your customers to end up with a pack like that. And they will not think about the distribution service. They won't blame them, they'll blame you. And that bad image will reflect on your brand. So it's really important to check out that, as I said, check out the customer journey. Make sure you check all the interaction points all the time. And if you're in an online business, the worst thing in the world, and there's lots of web advice around today, is to end up with a website like that. Impossible to navigate. You need to be able to go onto your website for your customers to be able to buy your products quickly and easy. I think Amazon's one click is tantamount to that. It's fantastic. You know, within seconds of seeing a product, it's on its way to you. So you need to be thinking about making sure that journey is really easy for your customers. And lastly, the last thing I want to say before I close this bit of the presentation without sound except my voice, is to say, final thought, talk regularly to your customers. If you're not used to doing consumer research, that's big speak for just talking to your customers, use things like SurveyMonkey. Lots of free stuff out there. Talk to your customers. Get them to fill out feedback forms, or just go over and have a chat with them. It's really important to try to understand your customer. You need to make sure that what your customers think about you is what you want them to think about you. So those values, go back to those values. And that is the end.